So, Digital Foundry has done their performance review for Star Wars Jedi Survivor for the PS5 Pro. They did some comparisons with the PS5 and they came up with some conclusions here and there. But even as much as I am a heavy critic of the PlayStation 5 Pro, I have to say that I will come out and defend the PS5 Pro against this game because that Star Wars Jedi Survivor game is one of those that is painfully poorly performant. In fact, some of you have said that this game is now playing well on PC, and possibly there's that scenario where the game is playing well on PC. However, I fired it up yesterday, 5800 Hex 3D, 6800 XT, and behold, the game was a stuttering. Look at it, look at it, look at it, look at this. This particular scene right here, like I just got, look at this, look at that. Do y'all see that? That's what I experienced yesterday. Now I had to beat this game via Game Pass when the game was actually available to play. And yes, it was an experience that it dropped frames. You could see it when it was doing that, but it wasn't doing the stuttering like I saw. Apparently, this particular system that they use in making their games, and I'm not talking about Unreal Engine 4 by itself, but whatever code base they have has a lot of CPU intensity and is very, very challenging to, a lot of setups. It started in Jedi Fallen Order. I just did not notice it because I had a smooth experience. So I was like, oh, the game should be fine. Apparently, this is one of those things where, on the PC side, if a developer goes away from or breaks code or makes their game a little bit more ambitious, they can face a challenge of actually seeing, their game pretty much do some weird stuff. I mean, look at this, the frame spikes. Yes, I'm getting beautiful big FPS, but to what extent? Like this is real footage, guys. Like this literally they went down to 1 FPS. Now, I'm sure that there's some tweaks I can do to mitigate a lot of this, but to be very honest, this is why I didn't play the game on PC. But that's not the focus of today's video. This is one of those where this is a developer failure. In fact, even with this Digital Foundry footage, and they talked about the game in performance mode, quality mode, and the pro mode, they pretty much drew the same conclusion. DLSS is better than PSSR. I mean, I don't know why anybody would think otherwise. But again, I think one thing people really do miss out on this whole conversation is a lot of this is a compliment to what PlayStation has, brought to the table, as well as Xbox. I mean, Xbox's console, came out with the higher clock CPU. It came out with some mesh shading, capabilities, and they didn't even do an upgrade. If they upgraded the Xbox Series X to be faster than what it is, it would more than likely beat the PlayStation 5, Pro if they actually went by, the AI upscaling and all of the above. Now, here's something that they were talking about. They were talking about just the performance of the game itself. Performance mode now runs at a higher resolution of 1800p, scaled up from 1200, and includes ray trace occlusions and reflections while continuing to deliver 60 FPS. Now, I may need to go ahead and do that. I may need to basically copy the settings from console to be able to play the game. So good luck with 1440. Throw that away. That was an native 1440 you were seeing, and a 5800X 3D. But the interesting thing, ladies and gentlemen, is this is where optimization comes into, question. Because for the most part, a lot of people have basically taken this to conclude that, the console platform is, better than PC because of the optimization and all. And I think that that's a whole bunch of nonsense, simply because it's akin to an example that I gave an audience member yesterday. They were saying, well, in some cases, a console is a better thing to have than a PC or than a 4070, fitted PC. And I said, well, imagine playing a 1v1 game against Michael Jordan when he's actually severely injured. Now, in that 1v1 game, you might be MJ. It'll be a tall order, but you might, come out and beat him. And then you concluding that, to a coach that you're the better player to be on the team because of that 1v1 game that you played against Michael Jordan when he was injured. That's not how it works. Developers are responsible for their game. They're responsible for the performance of their game. They're responsible for the optimization of their game. And I think this game absolutely dropped the ball. As I can tell you, even though it pains me to say, it is one of those. Now, why did Digital Foundry go ahead and actually compare the game, in my opinion? Well, this is a CPU intensive game. This game is used across CPU benchmarks across the board. And the Digital Foundry, I'm certain, wanted to go ahead and take the approach to figure out how the GPU and the PSSR would improve upon the base game. I gotta say, it was pretty much kind of weird because there were some, I would say improvements, but at the end of the day, this video highlighted more than anything exactly what a lot of AMD users have been experiencing for years, which is AMD's GPUs, they prioritize raw power and raw rasterization. However, when it comes to upscaling technologies like, their AI upscalers and some other things, there is still a lot of work to be done. RDNA 2 came out with some of the very best, GPUs, that were provided by AMD. But at the end of the day, when Nvidia brought its tensor cores and its, really interesting, precise computing, it just really, knocked AMD out the park. Now, AMD is still a good value if you don't care about the gimmicks. If you want to just blaze raw power, yes, definitely get an AMD. I mean, obviously, if this game was running, at optimal performance in terms of the PC, you would see some solid FPS. There's no doubt about that. I mean, at native, and I think I was at even high settings at one point. I think I eventually switched to maybe medium settings or so. But again, that was just because of the stuttering. I just didn't even know what to do. But at high settings, it didn't give me inherently any difference in that regard. So again, this is at the same time a compliment and then also a shortcoming of the PlayStation 5. And the reason I say it's a shortcoming, the Pro, sorry, is that it is not worth the price to performance that is being requested from the players who actually want to buy this for an increase in performance. Now, this is not to say that if you want a PS5 Pro that you shouldn't buy a PS5 Pro or that you're doing anything wrong. God forbid I tell you what to do with your money. Like, if I ever pocket watch you, call me freaking out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not about that. Like, go buy whatever it is you feel you want to buy. I don't want to hear your comments in the comment section saying, well, I don't care. No. That's your business. Buy what you want. We're just talking about the hardware. We're talking about the proposition. We're talking about what is actually necessary in order to basically see where this is coming from. And to be honest, I don't really think that this was even a solid game to use. But I think this is more of the developers, I said the developers, Digital Foundry basically pointing out that the developers having made their patch has pretty much not done much for the game. In fact, the better stability is on the PlayStation 5 base itself, of which, it's been locked down. The textures have basically been calculated, measured, tailored for the best experience that you can get, and more likely the Series X as well, because, again, both consoles are of similar capabilities, with the Series X having a little bit in terms of just a slight different, I would say up boost in terms of its power. So this is very interesting that the frames are being counted. And this is probably one of those results where I'm like, as much as I would like to see this result and, chalk it up, this game is only, in my opinion anyways, one of those games where, yeah, because it's new, yeah, because it's Star Wars, it probably has a little bit of, I would say attraction to it. But to me, I don't think the developers finished their job when it came to optimizing this game across the board. It's just one of those really, really sad situations. Very good game, which is weird. And I usually play games like this multiple times. Now, they did go ahead and mention some of their, Alan Wake stuff. And I've seen a lot of people talk about that and say, well, Alan Wake is not a good way to compare. And, it's an Nvidia-sponsored game. But I really do think that a lot of people are trying to maybe play down exactly what was spoken about in terms of the 4070 and the comparison for the PS5 Pro. Many of you are pretty much dismissing the primary fact that for them to be able to do this comparison, they had to force down the resolution of the 4070. That by itself already gave you the clue that this particular console is not going to run games at resolutions that the 4070 can touch. In many metrics, you're going to see the 4070 beat out the PS5 Pro. And even if you say, okay, well, Alan Wake is a, Nvidia-sponsored title, keep in mind that if you did like a 100-game test, we already have 100-game tests for the, 4070 for a lot of PC components. You will still see the bodying. It's going to be a bloodbath. Then the final piece that a lot of people are not talking about is the fact that when you actually think about it, the 4070 has the flexibility to be able to swap CPUs. That by itself is not something you want a console to compete with. So for those who are buying the PS5 Pro, buy it as something that, is going to give you improvement over your PS5, right? but don't buy it as something that's going to be able to come and sit in the same table as, say, mid-range gaming PCs, because a mid-range gaming PC is an inherently better, more flexible, and broader use device at the end of the day. I've seen a lot of people give all these excuses here and there, and I'm laughing, going, guys, you don't even understand that you're just pretty much talking about a unit that just has way more capability than a console. Let the consoles console. And I think that's what PlayStation has made a big, grave error, of which Xbox made the same error. And then Gotham Knights came out and exposed Xbox from ground up. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the most powerful console in the world, and yet Gotham Knights cannot run. Well, the developers would not, vouch for it at 60 FPS on those consoles. Even if they were able to find a way to get it to like 40 FPS VRR, or even, 60 after doing some tweaks. At co-op mode, the game is going to tank your performance. It tanks performance everywhere because of the way the developers have hosted stuff, akin to almost the way Baldur's Gate 3 does some of its own, co-op and its own, party mode. So again, these are very, very interesting considerations that people are not taking, into account when they're looking at all of these, in terms of the conversation. So more games are going to come out. More games are going to get, analyzed. And I think we're going to eventually start removing the 4070 from the, the conversation, simply because you already know, and I've said this before, an AMD device and an Nvidia device are going to do things very differently. I think somebody said to me that that doesn't matter. I think they gave some really silly excuse. But again, I think a lot of people really make up stuff. They just say stuff in the comment section and they somewhat expose themselves. I don't know how they're very good at doing it, but you can tell that a lot of these folk don't really care to even know about what PC gaming is, and they just claim some stuff about console games. But it is what it is. Thanks so much for watching the video. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Appreciate you guys' time and audience. Hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.